A year ago, DC was pumping out trailer after trailer for Gotham Knights, and it looked pretty good. Like, I was really hyped for another good DC game after all this time. I played all the Rocksteady Arkham games to death, and I finally started getting tired of my friends bullying me in Injustice, so Gotham Knights had piqued my interest to say the least. The gameplay footage of Batgirl and Robin they dropped months ago looked relatively polished for being pre-alpha, so why 4 weeks ago, when they decided to drop the Red Hood and Nightwing gameplay, does it look so bad and unfinished? This looks like the sequel to the Marvel Avengers game. In the background of gameplay, you can see stuff rendering in improperly, and the clothing of characters clearly have clipping and physics issues. Nightwing is playing Fortnite, and Red Hood is... What? Why did you do this? Who made you do this? It's like Murphy's Law kicked in full gear on this game right after filming the Batgirl trailer. From what we've seen of Gotham itself, I honestly like it. I think it looks really well done, it's well lit, it's atmospheric. My only real problem with Gotham is that there are genuinely no people here. In every DC game, it is like nobody fucking lives in Gotham. It is a barren and empty town besides criminals. And honestly, I can't tell if the game controls poorly or they gave the controller to Dean Takahashi, but the guy who plays in this footage is terrible. I was sitting here watching him get hit by every attack, miss every other shot, and not know how to back away from the enemy at all. This footage also makes me wonder if there isn't a dodge or parry button, because there seems to be no way to avoid some of these attacks without just brute forcing them and attacking through it. Speaking of attacks, despite Nightwing being an acrobat, a lot of his attacks seem to be lethargic and barely feel like they have any impact on the person he's hitting. I think this is to blame partially on whatever the fuck this animation is and the sound design. Red Hood also has this problem, but with his pistols barely feeling like they have an impact on their target instead of his fists. Like, compare the combat from Arkham Knight to this. Every blow in Arkham Knight feels like it actually has an impact with the receiver. Your weapons and gadgets, while not being required to win fights, still adds that extra layer of depth and decision making to how the player chooses to engage in a fight. Enemies interact with the environment and use different equipment to mix up players' ways of thinking and tackling the situation. The enemies in Gotham Knight seem to be lost and confused on what to do when fighting the characters. Like, look at this guy fighting Red Hood. Does this guy even attack the player? Let's talk about map traversal. In an open world superhero game, the traversal is extremely important, so it should not feel just satisfying, but also make the player want to use it. The mechanics of traversal should be more in-depth than just mashing jump and pointing in the direction you need to go. Arkham Knight does this perfectly. Not only is the cape gliding satisfying to watch, it's fun to use, and more than just looking at the marker, mashing jump, and letting Batman travel to the destination. When Arkham Knight makes you use the cape gliding to get from point A to point B, you aren't begging for a fast travel mechanic because it's well designed and enjoyable to use. And it is significantly better than Mystic Leap and a Fortnite glider. I should probably mention now that Nightwing and Red Hood don't just have those as their traversal options, they also have a grappling hook, but it has the same problems and feels more like an afterthought, and all it does is let you go from a short distance where you're looking and it just takes you there immediately. It's not really a good traversal option. I noticed that some people have this big problem with Red Hood's voice actor in this game, and while I definitely do prefer Troy Baker and Cameron Bowen, my real non-gameplay problem doesn't lie with Jason Todd's voice, but the actual design. This is not a human. This is a video game depiction of Chad Thundercock. This guy is built identically to Mitch Down from Paranorman. What were you doing? Actually, what were you doing when you made Jason Todd in this game? I don't know much about the Court of Owls, but I do think the story looks interesting, and thanks to the Court of Owls being involved in this game, they could probably implement some side villains better than the Arkham series did, by having some well-known DC villains have links to the Court of Owls, or something like that. I really don't know what they would do, but I honestly think it would be a big improvement from the other Arkham games. I know everything I just said was a big takedown on the game, and it's really disappointing to hear, but it's pretty honest, because according to them, there's only 6 months left till release, and unless they delay it, I can't see a way for them to fix all the issues currently plaguing this game's development, which means Gotham Knight will probably launch as a lackluster and ultimately disappointing DC game. And that really hurts to hear because I had very high hopes for this game after, coming off the high of all the other DC games I've played. So anyways, guys, yeah, that was my thoughts and opinions on this awful, awful look we got at the current gameplay of Gotham Knights. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, Can we please stop bringing back fucking detective mode? It has never been implemented well. It will never be implemented well. Just stop putting it in games. Stop putting in any of these games related to Arkham games, okay? I know this game isn't related to Arkham games, so please just stop putting this in. It is the same mechanic from the Arkham games. Stop. It is useless. I do not like it. Stop putting it in your game.